formed in the aftermath of the fall of the Western Roman Empire. The Germanic tribal kingdom of Francia thrives as the most powerful Christian kingdom of its time, with its kings being influential in the Catholic papacy. The Franks are a nation of warriors, diversified through conquering. During the European Middle Ages, the Frankish throne is inherited by the warrior king Charlemagne, also known as Charles, the first emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. His defining actions as king involve preserving Frankish warrior traditions while adapting to drastic cultural and political shifts. Thus, he rules as a master of both military prowess and courtship. In his effort to maintain power and control over his people, Charlemagne relies upon his assemblage of paladins as his primary court following. These paladins consist of Charlemagne's most trusted family, friends, and followers, tasked with religious, administrative, and military duties. Of the 12 paladins made legend in the Carolingian cycle, one man, Astolfo, is regarded as both the most handsome and weak among his fellow officers. He is both naively optimistic and completely lacking in sense. Despite his effeminate nature, Astolfo enjoys the company of beautiful women, having taken many to bed. Above all else, he is a free spirit. Born as an English prince, he discards his claim to the throne, seeing it as a nuisance. While this would normally irritate others, his inherent amicable nature actually appeases them. One day, Charlemagne holds a banquet for his court, a grand feast preceding a large jousting tournament. Interrupting their festivities, a remarkably gorgeous woman, Angelica, and her brother, concealing his true name Argalia, Prince of Cathay, accompanied by 4 giants to guard them, gain audience with Charlemagne's court with the intention of sabotaging his reign, masking their intent via a jousting challenge. They are challenged to face Argalia in jousting, and throwing him comes with the reward of Angelica herself. Of course, the siblings come prepared to ensure their victory. Argalia wields a sacred lance, which never fails to ground its target, while Angelica bears a ring to protect herself from enchantment and gain invisibility. Charlemagne decides to humor their challenge despite knowing of their ill intent. In fact, the paladins are eager to be the first to take on the challenge. After drawing lots, Astolfo is chosen, even though he acknowledges full well that, regardless of his persistence, he has little luck with the sport. As expected, he is thrown almost immediately, cursing his fate while basking in Angelica's kind sympathies. As the tournament proceeds, Frau, the most hot-tempered of the paladins, ungraciously loses the joust and attacks Argalia on foot with his sword. Frau stubbornly beats Argalia in sword combat before proceeding to propose to Angelica. Obviously, this was not an expected development, so Angelica flees using the ring to hide her presence, while Argalia abandons his lance to also make an escape. They are both pursued, and, left to his own devices, Astolfo claims the lands for himself, unaware of its enchanted value. Charlemagne orders the tournament to resume, only to be surprised as Astolfo manages to win all of his subsequent matches. Even Astolfo himself is baffled by his success. Astolfo and his lands prove extremely helpful when an invading monarch, Gradasso the Terrible, advances upon Francia territory, claiming land and prisoners in his pursuit of items he had lost, namely Durandal, the sword of Paladin Roland, and the steed of Paladin Rinaldo. Gradasso honorably conquers by challenging leaders to one-on-one duels, offering to free his prisoners in retreat should he be defeated. Ultimately, Astolfo and his stolen lands are able to thwart his advance. On a different adventure, while returning from an eastern excursion, Astolfo and his 2 paladin cousins, Roland and Rinaldo, come across the castle of an enchantress called Alcina. They watch in awe as she draws fish from the ocean without a line or hook. Noticing their presence, Alcina tells of a mermaid whose songs calm the sea. She beckons them to follow her if they want to hear the mermaid. While his cousins warn him, Astolfo nonetheless follows, carelessly believing her words. Alcina guides Astolfo on the back of a whale, which they ride to a secluded island, at which point Astolfo realizes he has been effectively captured to serve as her lover. At first, Alcina claims adoration to him, but later grows spiteful and, to rid herself of yet another burden, casts a spell that turns him into a myrtle tree. While this is one of his many blunders, Astolfo does enjoy his time as a tree, taking in the company of wildlife that would normally flee from him. There he remains, until a night, Rogero arrives on the island riding a hippogriff, a mythical creature with the front of an eagle and hind of a horse. Rogero is taken aback when he discovers the tree is speaking to him, yet he listens to Astolfo's tale and heeds his warning. Astolfo further explains that Alcina has two sisters, one of whom is a sage named Logistia, from whom the island was stolen. Despite knowing the danger and having his own love, Bradamante, Rogero too falls victim to Alcina's enchantment. He is led to her city on the island, where he is forced to live in a euphoric stupor. Both he and Astolfo are eventually freed by Melissa, a sorceress determined to keep Rogero and Bradamante together. The two are escorted to the estate of Logistia and are briefly taken in before being sent their respective ways. To ensure his safe passage, Logistia gifts Astolfo an enchanted book that repels all forms of magecraft, as well as a horn to chase off approaching enemies. Along his journey, Astolfo encounters a raging giant, Caligurante, who cannot be subdued. That is, until Astolfo uses his horn, scaring and deterring the giant. In victory, Astolfo parades the giant around town, basking in the glory of his accomplishment. His adventures continue, leading him to encounter and befriend the very same hippogriff Rogero once rode. With knowledge he gained from Logistia, Astolfo is able to mount and ride the hippogriff as his own, freeing it from captivity under the evil mage Atlante. Astolfo proceeds to travel the world on the back of his awesome mount, flying past the source of the Nile in Africa. He befriends Xenopus, ruler of Abyssinia, and assists in using his horn to chase a flock of thieving harpies away from the dining room. He chases them all the way back to their hellish mountainous domain before sealing them in. Beyond this mountain, Astolfo visits a palace amidst the plains, where he meets Saint John. The saint explains to Astolfo that his fellow paladin, Roland, has been punished for abandoning his post in pursuit of Angelica's love, and has had his reason, his intelligence, stolen away, causing him to violently wander the streets in the nude. Saint John also reveals that Roland's sense of reason is being kept on the moon. Astolfo and his hippogriff ascend to the moon itself, where they indeed discover a vial labeled the sense of Paladin Roland. There, Astolfo reclaims his own sense in a bottle, half filled with the liqueur-esque substance. Astolfo inhales the remaining half of his good sense and leaves with Roland's vial in tow. Sadly, in a matter of hours, he again loses the sense he had just retrieved from the moon, arriving on Earth with only Roland's. Coming to Roland's aid, Astolfo and the other paladins try to capture him. Astolfo in particular even goes so far as to dress in women's clothing to lure Roland in. After a ridiculous struggle, the paladins manage to pin Roland down, while Astolfo pours upon him his vial of sense. Roland, back to his senses, looks upon the ornaments in Astolfo's hair, declaring them to be an irresponsible proof of their friendship. Astolfo finally returns to the battlefield, accompanied by an army granted to him by Xenopus in exchange for evicting the Harpies. After their assistance, he sends them home with the spoils of war. Thereafter, Astolfo relieves the hippogriff, setting it free while his horn loses its power. Even Argalia's lands had been entrusted to a companion on his journeys. Thus, Astolfo returns to Charlemagne's court as an ordinary man, presumably the weakest of the paladins. During an expedition in Spain, Charlemagne's forces hear of an incoming attack from northern Saxons and decide to return to France. Fearing it could be used in a future conflict, he orders his soldiers to tear down the walls of Pamplona, enraging its Basquez people. On their return march through the Pyrenees Mountains, Charlemagne's forces are cut off by Basquez warriors, caught in an ambush with no reinforcements. To allow their king to escape, the paladins stand their ground. Their forces outnumbered 400,000 against 20,000. They engage each other in the Battle of Roncesvalles Pass, and while the enemies eventually flee, all but 2 paladins survive the fight. Tragically, Astolfo has given his life in service of that battle, accepting his fate despite experiencing tormenting pain and while drenched in his own blood. In his final moments, Astolfo recalls his many adventures, embracing all his achievements as well as numerous failures, wishing only to return to the skies once more. Astolfo goes down in legend as one of the famed 12 paladins of Charlemagne, embellished in literature and praised during chanson. His life and these legends are recorded into the Throne of Heroes. In the modern era, in preparation of the Great Grail War in Trifus, a wicked dark mage named Selenik Isikol Yggdrasilania prepares to summon a servant of her own. She is a woman who reeks of death and blood from kissing the innards of her victims, failing to mask the scent with various perfumes. As a practitioner of the dark arts, she is meant to maintain composure and indifference, but deep down, she derives great pleasure from her craft. For her summoning, she procures the glass vial that once contained Astolfo's missing sense. When Selenik summons Astolfo, she is both surprised and pleased by his unexpected form. She is enamored by his androgyny, feminine expression, and youthfulness. Every day leading up to the war, in the castle dungeon, she perversely has her way with his body, tracing it with her fingers and tongue, worshipping him like a work of art. He does not appreciate this affection, feeling like he's being treated more like a drool-covered painting than a human. Regardless, he endures her advances in a delicate balance, suspecting that she may likely use a spare command seal to lustfully subdue him beyond consent. While summoned as a servant, Astolfo maintains his free spirit and heroic nature, actively disobeying his master in order to harbor and escort a fleeing homunculus outside of Yggdrasilania's control. Little does he know that this homunculus will gain the heart of Siegfried and ultimately return to the war as a master. In battle, Astolfo is graced with all the unique mystic codes he amassed in legends. His golden lance allows him the technique Trap of Argalia down with a touch, a skill that brings any servant to their knees by forcing their lower legs into spirit form. While he at first forgets its true name, he also carries the Cassure de la Gestile, Destruction Declaration, the leather-bound tome that when fully invoked, repels all magecraft used against him. He retains the shape-shifting horn, La Black Luna, magic flute that calls panic, whose sound now brings forth destructive might. Lastly, his most iconic treasure, the Hippogriff, in addition to granting him flight, can perform a devastating charge, the otherworldly phantom horse, when fully invoked. Despite the Hippogriff's strength, Astolfo refuses to maximize its potential, not wanting to drain the Yggdrasilania homunculi of their mana. As penance for his disobedience, Selenik torments Astolfo, striving to make him suffer. After desperately struggling, he is freed from her and transfers his servitude to the homunculus Sieg. The two young men share a strong bond of friendship and trust, working together to save the world by preventing the fulfillment of Heaven's Feel. As in legend, Astolfo finds himself in possession of a wonderful tool, Achilles' shield. In an act of bravery, he uses this noble phantasm to protect Sieg from Karna's Vasavi Shakti and leads his master to the Greater Grail. As Sieg sacrifices himself to transport the Grail, he gives Astolfo his final orders to travel the world performing good deeds. Reborn anew from the Grail's mana, Astolfo achieves his dream of freely flying the skies again, bringing joy to humanity wherever he ventures. Today, he charms the hearts of all as the Otaku idol. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then go check out some of my other lore videos. It's my goal to make one of these for virtually every servant in the Nasuverse, and I would appreciate your support through that journey. The best way would be to become a patron of the channel. We offer different reward tiers, ranging from early access to the chance to suggest your very own video. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to OtakuDaiKun for more anime lists, reviews, discussions, lore videos, let's plays, and the holy waifu wars. Until next time, celebrate your fandom.